So we are the Geeks team, and we want to talk about our project. In front of me is Benito, then Henner, then Carlos, Jonathan, and me, Anna.
The first idea we had was to create a simulator of possible situations that a software engineering student would face in the future when he finished his degree.
The idea was magnificent, but we didn't have a clear vision on how to carry it out, so we started to think about other ideas.
We had an idea to make a video game, but
Why a video game?
the best part about the game is that it can be incredibly fun. Many people in the university love play video games, and we can enjoy learning by developing a game.
We rely on a survey we made in order to conclude that at least all the software engineering students in our generation could use a video game focused on strengthening knowledge. So, work needs to be undertaken.
The interesting thing about games is that we are complex to make. We didn't know if we had limitation when making the video game.
We used the Scrum model as a management framework because it's applicable to our project. We define roles and the organization we will have to develop the game. Taking the phases into account, making video games requires many different talents such as the visual imagination, storytelling skills, and dynamics.
Hi, I'm Henner, and as the product owner, I define the elements of the product backlog and prioritize them for each sprint. I also work developing some game areas and clarify doubts about the requirements.
As a Scrum Master, I wanted to push the vision of the game, make sure that everyone is cohesive, is on the same page, and knows exactly what they need to do to make the best product. I tried to recognize the skills from the team developers to find a profile where they can fit.
As a part of the develop, my work was to transcribe the resumes and questions from Ace Unity in the video game. We used RPG Maker MV for that. In every single part, the dynamic is different because we wanted diversity in the gameplay.
One of the biggest changes in the game was the implementation of the library, a map dedicated to give information about each topic of the subject. The player can go to this map in any moment to see this context and also interact with NPCs, and that gives extra information.
The team looked at those different parts of the development and started to assign tasks and days to make these tasks. In order to have a good organization, we use programs like Trello to plan. When we couldn't get together to work on the project, we signed in Discord, so all the team could communicate through a key to keep real-time voice. Conversation while working online in many documents and GitHub to create a repository and to manage our process activities and products.
We made a calendar starting by daily reunions, where we discuss requirements, what do we want, what that the product offers to the students that we will play. After every reunion, we talk about your next steps, so after we describe the function with the higher priority, we began to design.
We had a playable prototype, or our big adventure consists on interact with users. As we moved forward in the project, we got more user acceptance.
We try to make the controls very intuitive, because every player behaves differently. This phase of design was a challenge, because within the development process, several ideas arise with technical variations, so the looks and behavior of the game are completely different than the initial phase.
The interactions between characters is not easy as it sounds. Sometimes I have the feeling that I had to fight these tools I was using.
Once the architecture design and the prototypes are ready, we proceed ahead towards the final implementation, gameplay, menus, and game logic.
Finally, we get to the game testing stage. The testers ensure to maintain the quality of the game before deploying on different touches platforms. Before releasing the game, the unfinished game was exposed to a certain range of players. By collecting feedbacks from the players, the efficiency of the game can be measured.
As we already mentioned in the software process, for the acquired competences we had to learn way to organize us with the limitations of the RPG Maker, because it didn't allow the simultaneous work. So we forced to divide the work in individual parts and join them later, and also using a new software like RPG Maker helped us to learn how to use it and adapt us.
For the generic competence, we adopt different information and communication technologies, as we already mentioned, Trello, Discord, and GitHub. The topic, making decisions, was another competence we developed, since assuming roles until making change in the requirements, this project represented a constant take decision.
For unit competences, the principal human factor that were an obstacle for us was the individual organization to deliver some products in time. And this problem used to delay some iterations. About the requirements, we prioritize them before start each iteration in order to deliver the most important characteristic of the software. We design many parts of the game before I start working with RPG Maker, like doing maps draws. Finally, we also test many prototypes with some students in order to get some feedback about use problems of the product.
Basically, we put in practice the theory around Scrum, which is described in a previous part of the video. We implemented the phases of software development process. The team carried out proofs, designs, plans, and adopted models who made easier all this part of the project. The hardest thing that we did is the organization and deliver the products in the agreed date.
To be honest, we found many shocks and mistakes because we don't know the area or have the total understanding of the different concepts and processes. Also, we can say that some mini theory wasn't useful for us, and we were forced to put them into practice and then understand them thanks to it. The quality is one example of that. The time is a factor which made it difficult for us to apply much of the theory.
To divide the work, give to every team member and a unity about the different topics of the subject, who together make a 60% of the total participation of the project. We define the percentages of the unit with relations between the hours that didactic planning show us. For making equals for anyone, we divided the hardest task with more than one person. Also, the team defined 14% the product in activities was made around the process, resumes, questions, and documents.
The practical session was one of the activities that must help the students to understand about the contents seen in the degree program, because thanks to the activity they must understand about the content they will exemplify and apply with their classmates. In the same way, the exposures help us to investigate and look for reliable information in alternate sources and then expose and teach them to the rest of the classroom. However, in the first exposure was a feedback about what we should not put on the slides and how we will optimize exposures.
Nevertheless, the activities that were only about writing were not always the best option, because they did not guarantee students have learned the content, because many of them only learn it by heart.
Well, we hope that you enjoyed our video. We left a link below the title, so you can download the video game. Have fun and be creative. Leave comments and give us a like if you find it cool. Bye.
Bye.
A ver tu carita.